with superheroes when they have the power of invisibility, that's pretty cool. But to actually feel invisible as a person around other people, it makes you feel lonely and isolated, and it has a big effect on your self-esteem. This is the Energy Within podcast, all about accessing, nurturing, and building your energy and confidence so that you can design your life the way you want. My name is Carrie Jokala. I am your host. I am a Reiki master, a fitness instructor, a wife, a mom to 2 little boys, and I am the bridge between your reality and your spirituality. This is episode 103, and there's a little bit of commotion in the house today, so you might hear a little bit of background noise, but that's okay. Today, we're going to be talking about feeling invisible. I realized some time ago that was part of my deal with feeling a lack of confidence as I was growing up, that I had actually gotten myself to a point where I kind of believed that I was invisible, not physically invisible where people couldn't see me, but where I was just ignored because I was excluded so much. I didn't really have any friends. I was going to say that I didn't really have a close group of friends, but even that wasn't true. I really, truly, and honestly, in grade school, had no friends. I had one, there was another, maybe 2 that I was kind of friends with first grade through 3rd grade, and then many of them left the school after that. And from that point on, I found myself alone quite a lot. And I also, in addition to being, I say intentionally excluded because I have examples of times where I know I was intentionally excluded. It wasn't just that I wasn't picked. It would be, for a quick example, in music class, needing to get together in groups that we were going to stay in for the entire school year. And we would participate in trivia and other things within those groups. I was a group by myself because I went around to every single group of girls. I didn't even bother asking the guys. But I went around to every single group, and every single one told me that their group was closed. They weren't letting anybody else in. And that happened to me multiple times every year. And I also found myself being made fun of a lot. So in order to avoid being made fun of and to avoid feeling sad, I just kind of shrunk down. I figured if people weren't paying attention to me and didn't want me around anyway, that I would just make it easy on everybody, and then I wouldn't have to feel that rejection because I already made myself invisible. You can't see me. You can't see or hear what I'm doing. You can't read what I'm writing. Therefore, I'm not giving you any fuel that you can turn around and make fun of me with. It also, I think, was the start of when receiving compliments became difficult for me, because I had experience where if someone complimented me and I took it as a compliment, there would be laughter, or they would turn it around on me somehow where it was actually that they were making fun of me. So I internalized that to mean that if anyone ever gave me a compliment, that it was actually just a backhanded way of making fun of me. So it took me a long time to really be able to accept compliments. But really the biggest thing for me was that invisibility. We might think that with superheroes, when they have the power of invisibility, that's pretty cool. But to actually feel invisible as a person around other people, it makes you feel lonely and isolated, and it has a big effect on your self-esteem. And I like to think that I've moved past that. Of course, I still have moments where I worry that I'm invisible or that people just don't care to interact with me. They don't want to have anything to do with me. And that can come with social media, but I think we all kind of feel that, like if you post something and nobody likes it, or just a couple people do, or it's always the same people, you start to think, well, what's going on? First of all, it is important to realize that if it's a social media thing, there are other factors involved. It's not necessarily just what you might have posted, but there's the algorithm. There's people who are reading, but they just don't interact with anything, and it's not a personal thing. So there's a slightly different angle to it if we're going to talk about social media. But if we're talking about just in your general life, living your life, being around people in a physical space, in reality, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's felt invisible. So if we break down what I've kind of already gone into, some of those reasons for that would first of all be a fear of rejection. Because if you don't give anyone the fuel to turn around on you, to reject you or make fun of you, then it just won't happen. So you've kind of shielded and protected yourself from that. But it also prevents you from interacting in positive ways with people because you're so shut down, you're so hunched over in the corner that in some ways you are invisible, but it's your own doing. Another reason you might feel invisible is that perhaps you grew up being told not to speak, not to say what's on your mind. Maybe you taught yourself to just ignore your feelings or your intuition. Maybe you are very much a people pleaser and you don't want to upset anybody else or have anybody be mad at you or think that you caused something. Maybe you're just too much into a routine and you're kind of checked out on your life a little bit and you just keep doing the same thing day in and day out and you don't really give much thought to anything else. Maybe feeling like you're not living your purpose. And this has been a topic that I kind of wanted to talk about for a while, but it came up again for me just recently because we were hanging out with some people that I didn't know, and I realized some kind of a light bulb went off for me. And I realized that I had actually kind of, not physically, but internally shrunken myself down. Like I wasn't meant to be part of the conversation or I wasn't meant to contribute, that somehow I wasn't an equal, even though we're all adults. And the other people who showed up, I don't know their ages. I think they were a little older than me, but it couldn't have been by much. And I realized I kind of might have this internalized idea that I'm still, when it comes to other people, that I'm the youngest, because I've always been the youngest of everything. The youngest in my family, the youngest in my classes growing up. And I guess maybe that thinking that I don't know enough or I don't have anything worthwhile to contribute, or that if I do try to contribute, that maybe people are going to look at me like, who are you and why are you talking? And I didn't realize I still had that inside of me. So apparently there are still some little pieces of that there. So getting through that really comes down to the same things that everything else requires that you want to work on. First of all, being aware that you're doing it, catching yourself when you're having those thoughts, and then having the confidence and the courage to turn it around. For example, telling myself that I am not invisible, telling myself that I am an adult with worthwhile things to contribute to different conversations, that nobody is above or below me, but especially not above. It's like I somehow created this order in my head where I was at the bottom. So again, first thing to do is just be aware. Catch yourself when you're having thoughts like that and realize that it's not true. You are not invisible. I know I can go through all the things that I do in my life and find evidence of how I am not invisible. And I'm sure you can too. You just need to be honest with yourself. And if it takes some journaling and if it takes a few pages, that's okay. But then turning that around is the most important part. And sometimes it can be as simple as telling yourself, reminding yourself that you're not invisible and that you are worthy, but also know that that can take practice. Just telling yourself that one time, even you're not going to believe yourself. If you do, awesome. But I think for most of us, it's going to take some practice. But the more you can catch yourself and realize how often you're having those thoughts or acting that way, easier it's going to get to start turning it around. Now, I can tell you, of course, one thing that has helped me continuing on this confidence journey that I've been on is Reiki. And I say that not to sell you, but in full honesty, that is something that helped me. Particularly your solar plexus is where your sense of identity is, where on the flip side, any fears, any lack of confidence would be housed. That's why if you get like that kind of sick or sad feeling in your gut, that's going to be connected a little bit to the solar plexus. So having some Reiki work done on that chakra can help to start releasing all of that, to get things flowing the way that they're meant to, get the blockages out of the way, and allow you to start opening up. Realizing that you don't have to ignore your feelings, you should not ignore your intuition, and you don't have to be a people pleaser. You can be nice, but you don't have to be a people pleaser. There are nice ways to say no and to put up boundaries. So I do want to let you know that in relation to each of the specific chakras, I'm going to be doing some trainings, some posts, education about the chakras to kind of introduce you to what each of them are and what they relate to, because that's really the important part of it. Is not necessarily where they are, what they look like, what colors they are, but how they manifest physically and emotionally and what you might be feeling or experiencing based on that. And there might be something coming in relation to that education about each of the chakras and what working through them can do to help you. So I'm sure I have much more to say on this topic, but I'm going to wrap it up with that and invite you again to come do a Reiki session with me. If you're resonating with any of these things that I've said, Reiki can be very beneficial for you. So come and do a session with me. Prices may be going up pretty soon. So if you want to get in at the current price, please make sure to book right away. You don't have to book it for, an immediate next couple of days unless you want to, and you can find a time that works for you. But if you want to book it for a couple weeks out or something like that, that's fine. But you do have to book it to be able to lock in that price. And if you need a little bit more clarity on a situation or something that you're going through or worried about, you'll find the link in the show notes to do a card reading by email. So you have two options. The 3-card reading is 1 card for the past, 1 card for the present, and 1 card for the future. But the most popular option has been the 8-card spread, which is 4 cards that tell you where you are, 3 cards that tell you the path that you're on, where you're headed, and the top card, sometimes there's an extra card there if I need a clarifier, but that is the outcome if you remain on that path. So it's completely up to you if you stay on that path and you reach that outcome. But the other thing that can come up sometimes with these more detailed readings, the 8 card, is showing you what's blocking you, what's in your way, what you need to face up to or work through in order to successfully navigate the path that you're on. So that can be extremely helpful in just kind of putting that in front of you so that you know that, yes, this is something that you need to work on if you want to break through to the next level. So there's some awesome things coming in the works, so stay tuned. If you're not already in the Energy Within Facebook group, please jump in there because that is going to be the main place where all of the trainings take place. That's where I've been jumping in to do live card pulls as well, and I'm sure there will be more group Reiki coming in the future. If you enjoyed this episode, if any of it resonated with you, please share it. Do a screenshot or a screen flow, post it to your social media, tag me, and let me know what stood out for you. And if you have any questions, you can send me a direct message or hop into the group and ask there as well. Thank you so much, as always, for listening, and I'll see you next time.